Welcome back to the channel. I'm just looking at this crosshatch this thing just did. See what you can see up there, I'm not sure. Looks like a nice little crosshatch. Yeah, it's a little too bright today, and if you guys know anything about cloud seeding or making artificial clouds, yeah, they got to do it today because it would be not a cloud in the sky. Anyways, let's just dive into it, shall we? Because that's not what we're talking about today. My last video got taken down, obviously. My channel gets a lot of strikes. So we're not going to talk about any doctor things today because there's misinformation or some shit, which is not true. It's literally objective data. But anyways, let's just talk about what we're going to talk about in this video. Now, I've talked about in the past about racial division, that they're trying to set up a civil war, and now is the time, because so I read an article from the New York Times saying basically that civil war is imminent, it's coming, there's a lot of divide in this country, etc. And I gotta talk to you guys about something about why they want a civil war. A lot of you guys might be like, oh, I didn't hear anything about this. I'm just going to go to the next video or something. Go to something else. Okay, do that if you want. But if you want to know what's going on and why they are doing what they're doing, stay tuned. All right, so, again, New York Times says that there's going to be a civil war. They've been saying it for forever. They're clearly dividing us. They're race baiting us, and there's different groups, from the Antifa group to the Black Lives Matter group, which is creating racial division, let alone ideology division. Now, we always had left versus right, right? Democrats versus Republicans. But the problem here is that people aren't just picking sides anymore. They are confused. And I think that's part of it. There's a lot of rhetoric. There's a lot of things that are being said or thought about that shouldn't be because it's not accurate. And people are more under the guise of socialism now than ever. Now, some of you guys probably grew up in the 60s, 70s, 80s, anti-communism days, right? Anti-socialism. But it's not that way anymore, and they're trying to edge this in. They're trying to edge in division. They're trying to forget about your history books and what evil is, so they can come in, swoop in, and make the changes. Now, a lot of people know this, but not enough people, so I'm going to reiterate. Almost every war that's ever been conducted has been orchestrated. Almost every war. It's not on a whim a war happens. It is literally planned. Both sides of the wars always funded. Notice that there are billionaires and shit that are trying to fund our division now. And they want a civil war. Now, you guys can look at the Bible, and it talks about the end of times, about this should be all happening the way it is talked about in the Bible, in Revelation, what Jesus said in the Gospels. But, with wars and rumors of wars, and I can go on and on. But long story short, there's a lot of prophecy about what's going on now. The war, the civil war in America, is essentially inevitable when there are powers that be that are funding your distraction, funding your division, and funding your brainwashing. And it all starts from the television, but it also is in your school system, if you want to call that education, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of ideas now that are propagated that are against the old ways. The old ways were essentially, fuck communism, fuck, these evil people that want to take away your rights, you're pro-Second Amendment, you're pro-freedoms, whether that's speech or being secure on your own person to whatever, right? Your prosperity, right? And people would generally fight for your prosperity, your freedoms, your liberties. But they wouldn't fight for this person's this color in America, right? Even the Civil War both sides were black and white. Both sides were funded. And, of course, after the Civil War, they were able to establish more of a means of control over society and how the future was going to be propagated or controlled. So World War II, let's say, funded both sides of the war. I mean, Hitler got funded. I mean, where did he get all these tanks from? Where did he get all the powers from? How did he get authority? These are things that are controlled and manipulated. Today, you don't even have to look at George Soros and what he's funding. I mean, everyone knows that. You don't even have to look at Bill Gates and what he's funding. And these are billionaires, let alone Elon Musk's and Bezos and the climate change theater propaganda. They are trying to divide us, because when they divide us and we fight against each other, they swoop in and take over. Now that's important. When you are weakened, someone's going to come in and take control. Let's say we're fighting against each other over stupid fucking petty shit. Ideologies and division and hatred. Now, this isn't generally how wars start, but in nowadays spectrum with television and with media, they can propagate this to large amounts, vast amounts of hatred and division. Because if you only have one side of the rhetoric on TV, and then the rest of the population had a different idea, like let's all join together, let's be peaceful, I don't even see race or gender or everyone's equal in their own ways, right? They're equal, right? But the TV says otherwise. So now you went from 90% or so all wanting everyone to get along and everyone to be prosperous in this great nation we live in, to now 10% are against our prosperity or your ability to have firearms because they saw a school shooting. Okay, well, you see a school shooting or you see a shooter or all these mass deaths in Chicago to wherever, right? And then they get brainwashed, guns are bad. We need to get rid of guns and leave that to the policeman, which is ridiculous to me, but people have this idea. And then all of a sudden, now we're already divided because about 10-20% start believing in the other shit, socialism instead of capitalism or whatever, right? So things become backwards. And that's how they divide us. They say, this white man shot this one black man, right? Instead of saying, this man shot this man, which is reality. But when you use the word black versus white, it creates division. And I see it everywhere. I see it when I go places. I'm a white man with a beard, you know? So a lot of people think that either A, I'm a real cool guy, or B, I'm probably some racist, bigot, gun-toting dude who hates black people or some shit, right? And I'll see that when I'm at Dunkin' Donuts getting a coffee. The black person's like, they don't even want to look me in the eye because they think I'm some enemy. And that's the problem. They use masks to divide us. 20% are not going to wear those masks no matter what you say, like me, for example. No matter what you say, I studied virology. The first thing you learn in virology is masks don't protect you. And if you're dealing with a virus, you need a whole bodysuit. That's the first fucking thing you learn. That's like gun safety. The first thing you learn in gun safety is you don't point it at anyone. You make sure if it's loaded or not. There's safety precautions, right? It's the first thing you need to learn. Anyways, I don't want to get kicked off YouTube off that bullshit, but you know what I'm trying to get at. If I get a strike on this one, I'm probably done on this channel. So go check out my Odyssey channel. If I don't post it in the link below, please comment, hey, where's your post to your Odyssey channel? And I'll put that down below, so we can still stay in touch. They are trying to divide us, and it's more than just brainwashing. I mean, brainwashing's 98% of it or some shit, right? But there's an aspect of this division that is being used to propagate new law. And this new law is going to be, everyone's going to get VA double X'd. People are going to be getting surrendering to what they've been asking you to do. Mandatory things. Australia, they gave up all their rights with their firearms like 20 years ago. Don't quote me. I don't know the date right now offhand. It was either in the 90s or early 2000s. I don't remember right offhand. But they got rid of their firearms over propaganda. Now they have no way to fight back. So, you see what's going on in Australia with these camps? That's a precedent that hasn't happened ever. Because before, they were labor camps that turned death camps, right? Now, they are COVID camps turned death camps. Well, obviously, it's going to, if you ever read a history book, that's where these camps lead. COVID's just the propaganda needed to get to that point of surrendering people's will. But because Australia has no way to defend themselves, they don't have to divide them with the Aboriginals versus the whites or whatever, right? They don't have to use propaganda. They don't need to divide you. They already have you taken over. When they have camps and people are going against their will to those camps, they've already controlled you. No one's stopping it. No one can stop it because no one's allowed legally to go or enter or leave Australia without permission from the tyrants. So they don't need to divide and conquer them because they've already been conquered. US, we have guns. People are going to refuse to wear a mask and to get, their certificate of vaccination. They're going to refuse. So how do you get everyone on board with the trek? Almost said something to get me off YouTube. How are you going to convince these people to get the injections and to play ball? You're going to have to set up a civil war. Then they can take away your guns when it's all said and done and have complete control over us to try to rectify our nation after it's destroyed. Now, this doesn't have to necessarily be the people in power now, the UN. It doesn't have to be, it could be China, it could be, or it can just be the way it's always been. Where people behind the curtains are funding your demise. You see it in trucking. They're trying to destroy this country. Trucking's the backbone of this country. Now, what can they do to destroy trucking and destroy all these things? Well, they're going to give you more regulation, more taxes, and they're trying to wean you out of the industry. They're trying to instill this new climate change crap, which is destroying jobs, destroying our livelihoods, and creating more taxes. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on and on and on about that, but that's not for this video. But the point is, they're trying to destroy the country. And it's not just like a country trying to do this. It is the powers that be. They have agendas of who's supposed to be controlling what and where. Of course, for thousands of years, some of you guys don't know this, watch my video. What did I name that video? Secret Societies and the Occult, something like that. Where I can go into detail about how these people are raised and bred, and they don't go to the same stores as you. You don't go to this. There's two different classes of people. There are people above law who go into school, private little boarding schools with their children that are being brought up to become CEOs of companies and being higher powers, like let's say the DuPont family. The DuPonts are well known to be holding a monopoly over plastics, the Rockefellers over oil, the Rothschilds over monetary value, etc. Right? I can go on all day. And they're being bred to control the new wave of our future. Whether that is in every facet. And it's a lot through technology, like through your media. they try to propagate and brainwash people into going along with their ideas using terrible logic usually, right? Like wearing masks or just terrible logic usually. Climate change, I mean, that's the worst logic I've ever heard. I mean, you guys are fucking with our atmosphere. Cloud seeding to, making some places colder, want some places warmer. Warmer as in the Antarctic and the North Pole that they've been warming up for like 20 years, 30 years, something like that. No, they started in the 70s. And how I know that is when they used to pull the polar vortex down south, which never happened before. But it's been happening since the 70s now. Now, not too often in the 70s, but that's when they started. 1970s. But the point is, they use geoengineering to weather modify our planet. And then when they, just use this one little logic. Put a satellite over the North Pole or around Sweden, let's say, or Switzerland, or one of those colder countries. And just think really quickly what just one tiny 10 times magnifying glass does. Now imagine what that does to radiation. What does that do to particles in the sun? Now I'm going way off track, but my point is that they are doing this shit and then blaming you. And then you're like, I'm confused. I didn't do anything. Well, you're breathing and you're eating cows and you're doing this stuff. So we're going to take away your oil. We're going to take away this, that, and the third. Now, when you're defenseless and then you think as a prepper you're going to be fine all by yourself in your bunker somewhere, but, if they're manipulating the weather, how are you going to eat? When they block out the sun. I mean, look at all the shit about Bill Gates. I mean, he had Scopex, which was designed to block out the sun. Now he has satellites. Elon Musk is trying to use satellites to block out the sun. And how are you going to get your sun? You need sun to grow your food, right? But the point is I'm getting at is that they're trying to make us weak and defenseless. And if we're fighting and bickering amongst ourselves instead of the ones who need to be fucking put in their place, we're doing a disservice to all humanity. We are the Mecca of freedom in America. Do not lose this Mecca of freedom because the guy on TV said the white man shot the black man. Let's just go there. Fuck it. One white guy killed a black man on purpose because of his skin color. Let's say once a year that happens. Dude, sharks kill 3 people a year. On purpose. This is so minuscule. But they're trying to kill us on mass amounts. Watch my videos on population control. Bill Gates said it himself. If we're real good with our use of vaccines and health, reproductive services and healthcare and all that jazz, they can reduce the population 10-15%. Not one fucking racist shooting a year in the world. Come on. Or at least in America, is what I'm saying. In America. What? No one's racist against you because they'd be in prison, right? Basically, hate crimes are like the most devastating thing in the world. Like if I killed a white person, I get 20 years in jail, prison. If I kill a black person and I said it's because I hate black people, I'm in prison for the rest of my life, 100 years, right? Just because of that stupid ideology they've been brainwashed you with. There's almost no one that's racist to the point of murdering another race. It almost doesn't exist outside of the elites. Now, some of you guys know Bill Gates' family there are well-known eugenicists. Well-known, and we could be talking about the genocide in China, but there's genocide going on in the world. Except everyone's included. People used to say that race was only, or like slavery was only in America, was only black people were slaves. But that is so far from the truth. You guys have any idea how many white slaves there were? Do you guys know how many Indian slaves there were? Do you guys have any idea? And do you know that the first legal owner of black slaves in America was from a black man? Everyone could own slaves, and anyone could be a slave. It's ignorance and propaganda and brainwashing telling you that it was white people always owning blacks. And I don't want to get too deep into that, but they actually kind of took care of them. They were family. If you look at most slaves, they were treated so well, Harriet Tubman couldn't convince them they were slaves. That's how well they were fucking treated. They had room, board, they can eat fucking meat and vegetables, and they ate. They were able to reproduce. They had a life. Some of them were taught how to read and write. They didn't have to. Now, I'm against slavery, so let's get that out of the way before anything else, because I don't want any of these propaganda fucks getting on my channel being like, you're the guy that's the problem. I didn't own any slaves. I'm just telling you reality. And if you have a problem with reality, that's your problem, not my problem. I have a very firm grasp of reality, and I question myself every fucking day. Okay, so now they're trying to get most black people, I mean, they've been doing this for years, to hate white people, and white people to hate black people. And to say that, I mean, they give certain things like welfare more predominantly towards what's known as minorities. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in minorities. I believe that we all are a majority in America. Whether you want to call it, well, there's a minority of blacks to whites, sure. But minority as in rights, that doesn't exist, guys. You have as much say as you. Doesn't matter your race, gender, your creed, your fucking whatever. And to think that there's some separation or difference, or that you need to have a gay pride parade to try to convince people that you need some sort of extra rights? You already have all the rights in the world. What else do you need? You can do anything anyone else can do. So stop fucking bullshitting about this. No one's there to kill you. No one's hurting you. No one's even making you feel mildly uncomfortable. But the people on the news, the Disney Corporation, loves to fucking brainwash you and convince you that you are being held down, and it's systematic racism. And it's because of colors. And none of that shit should mean anything to you, because you should see reality. When you walk to work or your school every day, who do you get bullied from? Who is asking for your lunch money and saying that because of your race, this, that, and the third? No, there's going to be bullies anywhere. Race doesn't even fucking matter. Now, again, I don't want to fucking say it like this, but I know how you guys are going to take it, but I'm going to say it anyways. If I was a white man in the city, let me rephrase this. 95% of the city, I walk clean, right? No one's giving me any problems. But there are certain parts of the city that they really don't want white people in. So, can you tell me, let's say you're in rural New York, right? Like, where's a place that's super rural? Let's say Naples, New York, all right? You're a black person going to Naples, New York. You're 100% fucking safe. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that just because it's majority white, that they're going to have a problem with you. Just like 95% of the city, I can walk down, have no problem, no one's starting shit with me. But I go down to that one neighborhood, First Street, or I go to that one neighborhood. They're going to try me because they know that in the dark depths of the projects, there's no one there to save the white guy because he don't live around here because he'd be killed. I lived in the city, in the ghetto parts of the city, a lot of my life. And there are certain parts of my life where just because I was white, I was targeted. Again, I don't want to be talking like this, but we have to agree that there's hatred either way. I just know how to stay safe. If you had a bully you out of your lunch money, doesn't matter their color or anything, it takes consent to be bullied. Any type of resistance, they don't want to fuck with you. Now, and that's what it really boils down to. If there's resistance, no one's going to be bullying you. But now, there's systematic problems, whether this is through the education, this is through government. I worked at Home Depot back in 2014 and 15, I think. And at Home Depot, there's literally a thing where you cannot hire too much of one race. Go ahead, go to Home Depot. Now, depending on where you're from, now if you're in a city type environment and there's not like 95% of the people being white, let's say, like if you go to like North Carolina in the mountains, yeah, they're going to hire all white people because that's all they have. But if you are in a city, not even a city, suburbs of a city, they are not allowed to hire only one race, all whites or all blacks or whatever. They have to have one white. If two people are going for a job interview, a white person, a black person, and an Asian person, and they're all white and black, let's say 50-50 on the team at Home Depot, they have to hire that Asian person regardless of who is more qualified for the job. All right, let's go to college applications and let's say getting into Harvard, right? You need a higher SAT test just because you're Japanese. You need a higher test score than that of a white person or an black person. And then black people need a lower SAT score to get in, right? So it becomes one of those things that some people are more privileged than others. And that's not right, especially when it's regarded on race rather than accomplishments or what they deserve because of what the energy they put into it, right? Now, we all know, like, basketball, let's say. There's going to be more of a race, predominantly black people in basketball because they're more gifted there. Just like on a boat getting crabs up in Alaska. That's going to be predominantly men. It's not going to be women. And those kind of jobs are going to be predominantly men. Now, it's not because there's racism or sexism. It's because those people are more, not only more genetically better at that sort of thing, but there's also the thing where the other races don't even want to get into it, right? Like, being a crab person up in Alaska, you're going to be white or Asian, period. Right? Like, you're not going to be Indian. You're not going to be African. You're not going to be those things up in Alaska crab fishery. And that's fine. You don't need to fucking force black people onto that boat, right? But why do we do this with other things now? Like Home Depot getting jobs in America. Why are we doing this? What? Because everyone's scared to get sued and have backlash. And this is going to be bad for our numbers. If somebody finds out that our CEO's racist, which is generally who is racist, the CEO, and he's never going to go shopping at his place because you're there. So you understand that there are certain levels of law that are applying to you and me that do not apply to them. Right? So again, they want to divide us, they want to distract us, they want to control us. And if we're going to fight and bicker amongst each other, now I don't think there's going to be like a race war in America. I don't believe that. But I do believe there's a huge potential for a civil war. Again, back in our Civil War, blacks and whites were on both sides of the war. Both sides of the war were funded, not only by us, but by British people. Now, same thing with World War I, World War II. They're funding these things. They're practicing these things. They're practicing stuff in Australia right now that they can't do to us because we have guns. And they already took away their guns and they're going to comply and consent and be slaves. So understand, in our country, they can't just fucking bend us over because people aren't going to comply. So how are they going to get people to comply? Weaken our country through many different means. You're not allowed to go to a concert anymore. That's going to give away your happiness and your ability to fight for things, right? Because you're going to be hiding, basically, right? Because if you can't go out into public without a vax or a mask, you're going to be hiding, technically, right? Because you're not allowed in New York City stores or whatever, right? Or concerts, or you can't go to Madison Square Garden for the fucking basketball game or whatever, right? You can't do those things. So what they're trying to do is lower your power. They want to take away your guns. They want to weaken you and destroy you. And this is, again, there's a lot of people funding this. Not just one country, not just one establishment or corporation, not just one man. There's a lot of people in on this. And the one thing that you need to understand is that it doesn't matter how many people are in on it. Because a lot of people think, can you just imagine how many people would have to be in on this for them to get away with this? Yeah, there's a lot of people in on it. Just think about Santa Claus. How many people have to be in on it for the lie to continue? Everyone's fucking in on it. So the point I'm getting at is that they are trying to divide and conquer us, but it's not because of our detriments. It's because we are so strong, they have no fucking choice but to weaken us and destroy us, so then they can swoop in at the end and say, I have the cure. You bow down to the altar of the beast, you take the mark of the beast, you pray to the beast, and you will be free. Again, I don't want to just be talking about prophecy here. This is a philosophy channel. I don't mind talking about philosophy, prophecy. But this is a philosophy channel, and I want to stick more with philosophy. Philosophy first, then prophecy, right? So reason and evidence before ideas, right? So reality before theories. Anyways, so they want to destroy this country. Look at everything, right? From what they're doing to the trucking industry, getting people out of the trucks, getting 18-year-old kids fresh out of high school who can't even fucking drive their car is going to be driving these fucking 40-ton vehicles down the road, killing everyone. Come on now. They're destroying this country. And they're destroying the world, and they're trying to get you to conform to them. They cannot have you conform to them without a threat. There's the common cold. There's a threat. You need to give up all your rights and your abilities for prosperity, because if you don't, we will fight you. We'll throw you in a camp. But they can't do that in America. Again, what is there? I'm just throwing a number out there. What is there? 300 million guns in America? Good luck. Good fucking luck. But if they weaken us, distract us, get us fighting amongst ourselves, they can get away with a lot more. And they can push and push and push, because it only takes 20% of opposition to cause division in a war. It takes 20% to go along with one brainwashing technique to say that, get the Black Lives Matter, the Antifa people, the people that are actually destroying this country, being funded to destroy this country, all these CEOs. If you're weak, docile, and you're going to just consent, you're going to be more weak and docile. You're going to end up more into hospitals and having all these problems with, Parkinson's to autism to diabetes to all these things. And it's all because of consent and not thinking for yourself. But if you think for yourself, you understand when you go out into public, there's no one hurting you, right? There's no one murdering blacks off the street. There's no one doing that. Now, what creates usually death in a situation is usually because of something in the past. This could be hatred. This could be black on black crimes. It could be white on white crimes. But it could be black on white. It could be white on black. Doesn't even fucking matter. But the point is, there's usually a reason behind a murder, and it's usually not because I saw his color. Right? Because that's very, very rare. And in fact, I don't remember a time that's actually happened. In fact, I've lived a long time and I've never seen that happen. But they want to tell you on the news it's happening. They want to say black man versus white man, and then you come to your conclusions after they keep saying black and white, black and white. So I'm somebody that used to grow up with a lot of black friends. Like I said, I used to live in the city. I had a lot of black friends. I like partying with black people more. They're more my style. They like rap. I like rap, right? So black people are generally more my type of person. I get nervous around too many white people, too many Asian people, but when I'm around too many black people, I grew up in the city, I feel at home. So when when I'm saying things like this about division and hatred and race, the black people I know, they know this too. They know white people are killing, but there's something behind our psyche that is destined to be aligned to that technique of being brainwashed through the television, through social justice warriors, and behind magazines. You're seeing all this fucking rhetoric, and you're seeing it everywhere, and you're going to align to it if you can't think for yourself or refuse to think for yourself because you only take direction from authority. But if you look at these people who are in authority and what granted them authority, it's all evil and tyranny. It's tyrants bringing up more tyrants to create more tyranny. Don't fall for the division. Civil war can easily come to America, just like the New York Times said. Just know that we are together. And don't hate that idea that we're all together because of your brainwash. Because if somebody like me says, "Hey man, let's all be in this together. Let's prepare together. Let's read scripture together. Let's be together. Let's have that oneness and love, and let's preach this out into the streets." I think everyone is on board except for those that are truly evil. Because if you are brainwashed and you want equality, like, again, going back to gay pride parades, thinking that gays need more rights about something, like, what? You have a heartbeat? So you have the Constitution, right? You have a Bill of Rights. You have a heartbeat. What are you doing? You can do anything anyone else can do. It's brainwashing technique that... Now, there's nothing wrong with gay pride. There's nothing wrong with black pride. But when you continually go to a source of division and tribalism, that's a tribal fucking disaster waiting to happen. Because you're always going to be aligned to one rhetoric, right? And again, there's nothing wrong with whatever pride you are. Puerto Rican to white to whatever, right? Even though white people aren't allowed to have pride, right? But there's nothing wrong with white pride. You're growing up in Europe and having loved ones that you knew, and you can't have pride from where you came from. Oh, well, white people are only Vikings and slave owners and fucking evil fucking people. No, because all those people are non-existent anymore, A. And two, everyone was involved in the slave trade. Everyone. There has not been one race on this planet that has not been enslaved, and there has not been one race on this planet who has not enslaved others. It has not happened. So just understand we're all in this together. And if you want to be a part of a group, be a part of us instead of I'm on team black or team gay or team this or team that. They use sports to divide you. They use politics to divide you. But the truth is we all want the same thing. We all want happiness and prosperity. We want freedom. We all want those things. We don't want to be behind bars because we didn't have a certificate of vaccination to go to the grocery store. We don't want that. We don't want that for anyone. But with brainwashing techniques and not understanding virology, not understanding how the world works, then we have a problem because there's confusion. The problem isn't the problem. White people killing black people. That's not the problem. It's confusion. It's not understanding reality. And because you don't understand reality, it's because of censoring speech. It's because of they're trying to divide and conquer us. They're trying to confuse you. Because if you're confused, you're not going to prepare. You're not going to get your own firearms. You're not going to get your own chickens. But if you know what's going on and you know what's going on, you see what's going on and you can't unsee it. Therefore, they can't control you, right? I read an article today about Bill Gates, our buddy old pal Bill Gates, saying, yeah, the reason why people aren't getting the shot is because, in America, is because there's a lot of conspiracy theories about him. And I posted this to Bookface for my family, saying, weren't you the one that said the vaccines were going to depopulate the planet? You said that. It's not my conspiracy. You said that. I didn't say that. I just said what you said. I'm quoting you. So anyways, just understand that they are trying to divide and conquer us, and they want us fighting and bickering about amongst each other. There's no problem with arguing. Just stop name calling. Stop being, person's a liberal, so he's dumb. This person's a Republican, so he's this. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Because I'm an anarchist. You're all fucking dumb. You're all fucking getting played with the dog and pony show. Every fucking one of you. If it's not pro freedom, pro choice, I mean, who doesn't give somebody else a choice? That's called slavery. Who wants to be a slave? Who wants to be a slave? No one. So let's fight to not be slaves, to not be divided, conquered, murdered. Because that's what's coming. That's what war is. What do you think a civil war is? They want us fighting amongst each other. They want the hospitals full. So stop letting them. Stop consenting. Stop watching TV. Disney wants you gone. See you guys.